Takes on for Icon, well, it'll be execution errors they'll need to clean up for Temple of Anubis now. New Paradigm attacking first, Machi defending first, and again, we look at this conventional defense here. Got the Orisa, no Hog to be paired with, but they do have Shui onto the Junkrat, which is fairly common for New Paradigm. You're gonna have to see them make a reasonably long flank here, but a lot of danger off the back of the Halt and the Concussive Mine combo that they need to be quite careful of.
And a kind of half dive coming in here for New Paradigm. Got the sniper backbone, as one would expect. We've got the Zenyatta. Got all the pieces, but they are wanting to keep this this unit of the Widowmaker combined with the Mercy, having that damage boosted out. Already, though, not going so well for New Paradigm and Merit. Struggling to find those shots. Stephagen having a bit more success, and New Paradigm going to have to move back and reassess.
This is why you have to make those long flanks and the long rotations for New Paradigm. You see them try to attempt to just brute force their way onto the high ground, brute force their way into Leo, the Orisa player, and it's not going to work. It's not going to be able to penetrate because there's too much shielding, too much damage mitigation, and too much damage output coming from the defensive players, both from Stephagen and Shui. New Paradigm, they have to take this slightly slower, work the way around, and find corners.
Stephagen and Merit just kind of locked in a bit of a battle here. That's a battle that ultimately favors New Paradigm. Not just because Stephagen actually got the kill, but also because the rest of Machi have that spam damage. They just want to sit back and throw that out without having to be pressured by Merit. And you see how things go when they're able to take that counter sniper off the table.
Now Machi snowballing these ultimates as well. Eind has gone all the way back. So he's going to make a long flank around, and this is kind of the setup that New Paradigm need to be able to get into, but for New Paradigm, they still have to play against some pretty big ultimates, and Eind has been spotted out.
Still going to go in on the dive. First target is going to be first, yeah, but it's counted out by the Transcendence. It's going to be a tie to take Froppy off the top, and that's unfortunate for New Paradigm. That's a Valkyrie that they sorely needed. And honestly, the answer on the other side hasn't been there for New Paradigm. Now losing Frost, they can't get him raised up. Froppy's still a little way away from the fight, even though he's respawned. By the time he gets there, there's not enough team left alive for it to be worthwhile. I think New Paradigm just have to try again another day.
There's even now a stagger onto old Tedo, I believe. They do lose Stephagen, Machi, so they have to be very considerate of this kind of positioning. With the res back in, a couple of tank ultimates available, they still have this very defensive positioning in this corner here that they are going to have a lot of, for New Paradigm, a lot of trouble breaking into.
That was finally the Valkyrie from Froppy. So this is a fight that New Paradigm are looking to actually get some success in. Tedo also able to remech really helps them out. That is an opportunity lost for Machi.
Nice
but
double.
as one door opens and one door closes a window, you know what? Whatever the saying is, pretend that that's what I said. Because what's happened is Machi won the fight.
Tedo gets to reset himself on the Steel Trapper Shui as well. What New Paradigm have been able to do here is get a lot of these ultimates out of Machi Esports. There are still some defensive options available. Eind is coming up to the Dragon Blade, but if they can't get rid of the Transcendence first, the Dragon Blade, like we saw earlier, is not going to do a lot. It's the rest of New Paradigm now that we need to see if they can get value here. We need to also see, can Merit start winning these Widow Duels, because Stephagen has been doing a much better job.
Talk about execution as well. I mean, when New Paradigm have been mis-executing, Machi have also been executing very nicely. And we're now in a situation where this is the last fight. Should be a kill, but actually Frost taking so much damage, he has to back out, takes a shot in the back and goes down. Eind does trade that one back, but by the time Froppy's in to res Frost, the team's already in such a disastrous situation. Eind getting low, Tedo as well being pressured out. He's going to lose the mech here. No. Yes, indeed he is. It looked like maybe the Transcendence had saved him, but just not quite. Now getting zoned off the point. Judo will go down. Eind needs to get a lot done with this Dragon Blade that they have finally got available, but he's shut down by Shui. Rez is in on Judo. New Paradigm now hemorrhaging members, and it's looking like, even though they capture third, Machi will complete the hold on A.
Third is at least important because it means they don't have to rely on to a draw, but it's problematic because it doesn't take a lot for Machi to just entirely penetrate that defense, something that New Paradigm couldn't really do. And again, the best thing that New Paradigm did was, of course, get that 1/3, but most importantly, they pushed Machi backwards. Machi were on that initial high ground defense that you see in front of you. They got pushed back towards the point, so they are losing a lot of space. And eventually you can get this around, you can force them back into a corner and force them to come to you onto the point. But for Machi Esports, they already bled so much time off. They already got so far ahead in terms of the economics of the ult economy. New Paradigm just didn't have enough legs to get back into the game.
Now 41%, I mean, it's not nothing. Like you said, it's a saving grace insofar as now Their best result is a win, whereas it would have only been a tie. It's the best possible result, but effectively when you're thinking in terms of Machi's ability to cap out, it's little difference to just that 33% that they would need in order to complete the win. And you'd certainly expect that Machi could get 33%, and therefore you'd expect that they can get 41. That little bit doesn't make any real difference.
So the thing that is going to be different here is New Paradigm playing a very similar composition. This time they're going to add the hog where Machi didn't. If New Paradigm as well, they're going to set up on the main high ground section, this sort of really high section that doesn't have any access to it outside of the May wall. And for Machi Esports, what this does mean is the difference between this setup and the one slightly closer to the attacking spawn is, for the attackers here for Machi Esports, they're going to have an easier time accessing the flanks initially, but it will be more difficult to progress onto this defensive setup. So for New Paradigm, it's a little bit of, you know, some pros, some cons here.
I think one of the real things to note, though, is it gives an opportunity for Machi to just play the point directly once they get close enough, because New Paradigm don't have time to waste. It's only just over a third. Once Machi are on the point, New Paradigm have to dive down and answer, so they need to be shutting down Machi in the rotation.
New Paradigm can send 1 or 2 members down. The big issue is Machi have to force basically all of New Paradigm to come down. Then they have got that defense more or less handled. So you are seeing them sneaking onto the point now, avoiding as much spam damage as possible, and as that ticks up, like you said, eventually New Paradigm got to do something.
Yeah, first it's going to be Tato going down just to contest the point. There's the answer that they need. They find creative, but there's an answer back in kind, and now Tato fully, completely gone. There's a few stabilizing, whatever that word is, stabilizing kills in favor of New Paradigm there, and Tato will be able to rejoin the fray. Late kill on Velvet, though, is potentially a window for Machi if they can reset this quick enough, but honestly, it's taking them a long time to lose the fight, as bizarre as that does sound. That means should be the Velvet comes back in with plenty of time to spare.
Stafford previously on the Tracer as well was doing a lot of work on that high ground, buying the rest of his team time on the ground to actually get that cap through, at least clean up the tanks. They couldn't quite do that, and because Stafford also lost his own life, New Paradigm focused their attention from the high ground to the low ground, clean up the remaining members of Machi Esports, and now continue the defense. But they are now forced onto the ground. They no longer have high ground advantage, which means for Machi Esports, it should be an easier time for them to actually dive on.
Yeah, the subsequent attack does get just that little bit easier. In fact, Machi's seeing the opportunity to take the high ground for themselves. Good headshot onto Stafford, but here's the dive from Shui. Already finds Merit. Now looking for more. Goes down to the tire. New Paradigm as well can res Merit in if they desperately decide they need that. Machi are going to have to start digging deep here if they really want to start cracking this. And there's the res on Merit. So New Paradigm still at full fighting strength. Self-destruct in as well from Judo. Doesn't find anything, and suddenly Machi lean on resources. This is all just fight extenders now. It's a Primal Rage. They will also have a Transcendence, but what they need above all else is kills. Kills that they are still not getting.
Well, here comes that Transcendence. It's going to slow things down for New Paradigm, but with a Supercharger as well, you can see that damage output, and now suddenly Merit is doing a great job shutting down Stafford.
Oh,
the martyrdom kill as well.
Getting one with the last
mayhem.
laugh. That's really unfortunate.
I do also want to say the main player that I want to commend here, as Froppy did end up going down that fight, was, to be quite honest, before then, he wasn't dying, he was staying alive. He's also the only healer for the defense on New Paradigm's side. So it's so important that he survives, because if Machi Esports can just get only Froppy down, realistically, they should be able to open up the defense. But the tanks stay alive, the tanks out-damaging the rest of Machi, keeps this defense going.
Now going in for the dive again. Oh, nice hook. Shui's going to be just fine, though. This is now the last chance. Machi really have to break this one open. So they round that
Froppy down,
mark. Froppy down. Yeah, that's exactly what they need. The solo healer. Iron needs to really turn things back around, but he's dead in his own fight.
Oh, dear.
Taya finds nothing. Waiting too long on that. Velvet does have a self-heal, but it's only himself that can get it. Funny how that works. And that's Machi just starting to really turn the tide here is what's really going on. They've finally actually got the kills. Kills that they hadn't been getting in the previous fights. Kills that have allowed them to get the presence on the points. It's going to turn things around on Temple of Anubis. Was actually looking like maybe New Paradigm could complete a hold. They did get surprisingly close to it, but Machi do get it over the line. That was what they'd set themselves up for with their own defense, and really it's just making the most of that.
The difference between what happened to Froppy there and what happened the previous fight was, well, the first time we saw Froppy die in the second to last fight, I mean, it was basically already won for New Paradigm. The rest of the members that were alive were able to get the necessary counter trades to keep that defense going. The issue is when Froppy died eventually on that last fight, he was the first one to go down. Everyone else, the other 5 members, had nothing else to play off. They did have the whole hog, but again, no healing, no sustainability. Eventually, that defense crumbles, and it wasn't too hard for Machi to do that, where it shouldn't have been. They just needed to target Froppy and get him down at the correct time. It just took most of that attack to do so.
Yeah. I mean, the first push was really just getting New Paradigm off the high ground. Like, despite the fact that it came down to that final minute, that was really only 3 fights. In the first one, you don't really expect Machi to win in the first place. It's the middle one that was a little bit more surprising. That was the one that really made it look like New Paradigm had a hope there. So credit to Machi there for being able to get that over the line when they did, and also credit to New Paradigm for nearly actually completing that hold. Ultimately, though, it goes the way of Machi, and well, that means they now take it to match point, and they start to look a little bit better, start to recover from that loss on Eichenwalde.
And all things considered, if this was a time bank kind of play, if we did see this going to be as well, you'd commend New Paradigm and say that was a very valiant effort onto the A defense, buys them a lot of time to defend B. But the issue, the core issue here for New Paradigm is they didn't even get past A, so we didn't even see the B defense or the B attack, which could have been a bit of a different story potentially for this New Paradigm squad, but it has to all start somewhere, and for them, they didn't get a beginning. They didn't start on A because they never finished it.
It's a little unfortunate. It is really the way to look at that. But, I mean, that's what New Paradigm have had happen to them a lot of the time here. Like, really, actually, it's Eichenwalde, it's the outlier. Let's take a look again at Lijiang Tower. I mean, even when they were trading back and forth, it was Machi just doing it better on Control Center. And then the second one was a shutout. It was an utter failure of execution on the side of New Paradigm. Again, you say Eichenwalde, it's the odd one out there. It's actually mostly New Paradigm struggling to execute and also lacking in the consistency. The fact that they could do it on Eichenwalde and then haven't been able to anywhere else just goes to show why it is this team that's being relegated.
We are also seeing it was Machi on Eichenwalde that they kind of had the misexecution themselves.
Yeah.
They probably had that map won in some cases when they got to that C point, but again, couldn't get it across the line. On Temple of Anubis, them defending first, having the perfect defense, not really letting anything go except for that 41%. I mean, aside from that, that's basically the only roadblock for them.
Effectively nothing.
And pretty much, I mean, they still got that A-hole. That was the only point where you'd say for New Paradigm, okay, they got a little bit of a cap, but it was just so far gone. New Paradigm had so much work to do to get their own full defense. And, I mean, again, you'd expect that bubble to pop at any stage. You run one healer, eventually Froppy goes down. It takes a lot to keep this one guy alive, and Machi, well, they get there eventually. And
to that end, speaking of bubbles that inevitably pop, you do kind of feel like this series inevitably goes the way of Machi. That's the next bubble to pop here. The question is, what map specifically is it going to be on? That question is about to be answered for us. We're going to be taking it to Rialto.
Where else could it go to?
Love it. Love a good Rialto.
It's been mostly Rialto, and I would like
to see a lot of Rialto, actually.
If this is one that New Paradigm can really pull through. I do also want to mention they've had a decent number of map wins here. New Paradigm are 5 for 11 up until week 4, by the end of week 4. Currently, that 5 is now a 6 because they picked up Eichenwalde. It's not an awful map score considering some other teams that are being relegated have much lower map scores. New Paradigm have actually been fairly competitive. 4 of those actually came from their win against Mega, so they did get that clean sweep against the number 6 team in Group A. So New Paradigm aren't without, you know, some of the merits, and they even have a player called Merit. So,
sure. I'm a little worried, though, I have to say. I'm a little nervous with Rialto just because of the nature of how a lot of the holds have to take place. We saw Machi kind of struggle, or not struggle on point B of Eichenwalde, that's unfair to say, but just kind of whiff any kind of game plan. They didn't seem to know what they wanted to do. That, if they end up doing it again here on Rialto, will absolutely cost them a defense. You've really got to be clear on how you're setting up on defenses on Rialto, where you're going to make your stand, how you're going to make it happen, and then you have to follow through.
I also want to say this is where Machi Esports had that map lost to Mega. They had basically a perfect series and then dropped Rialto to Mega. So in a recent interview with Judo, they kind of mentioned that they kind of got overconfident here. They just didn't respect the other team's ability to come back and get a win, and I mean, it kind of cost them at the end of the day. So I wonder if This is going to be a different Machi where they will just finish this map. They will finish the series 3-1 like we expect them to. Whether they kind of just let it slip through their fingers again and suddenly we'd actually be at a map 5, then suddenly New Paradigm have a real shot at reverse sweeping. Well, not reverse sweeping, but winning as the underdog.
You'd like to think that they've learned from that, Machi. So, you'd like to think that they can win this. If they do win this, then they win the series. But you're right, if they lose, it goes that extra little bit. They do end up going back onto control, though, so that's a saving grace for Machi. Losing Rialto here wouldn't be the end of the world, but it would be far from ideal. Again, you talk about looking good before you go into playoffs. A full 5, that would not be.
So let's take a look at this offense to start things out with Shui onto the fire. Immediately kills himself.
I mean, we've all been there.
I think this is actually a reset. This looks like,
yeah.
I say that, but at the same time, why didn't you just go back to your own base for that? Unless both Shui and Burst were way too far out.
I believe they were attempting to flank.
Damn.
Both ran out of gas.
Yeah, worst possible moment.
Oh, it's not something you see every day. Both the pharmacy drop in that way, but there you go. That's that flank now. So yeah, solidarity. You play together, you die together.
Now that they're finally actually around on that flank, Leo has just died to the upfront damage, and again, you're still seeing Shui and Burst getting pressured out by Merit as they did the first time around.
And there's no guarantee the flank works as well. Let's look at a world where Merit lands the headshots. I mean, on the end of Temple of Anubis, he was coming back around against Stamphagen on the other side. There's no reason to assume that he couldn't also take down Shui and Merit, or Burst rather.
I mean, this is already a minute gone. This isn't even where defenses really start on the courtyard, so Machi still need to find a way to just crack the end of that alleyway. There's the flank finally coming around. It took them a long time to get in position, but now that they're in position, they press the go button. Nice catch on Shui. It's cool, it's impressive, but Shui gets raised back in, and the reality is, Machi have already racked up plenty of kills to break this fight, to get into the courtyard here. The flank did pay off in the end.
Took a long time to get there, nearly didn't quite pull through. Imagine a world where, actually for Machi Esports, the rest of their squad trying to break through 4v6 don't quite do it. You have this long flank around from Shui and Burst, and yes, Shui eventually jumps onto Merit, but Merit actually gets the kill even with the res. Machi can't really do much so for New Paradigm. Unfortunately, the rest of their team just couldn't hold weight.
But now the momentum swings the way of Machi because they were able to win that. And again, speaking of flanks, you see Shui looking to get around the backside, has the barrage available. They look to get aggressive in the front line. There's the barrage. They decide to go in the front with it to augment and accentuate the dive. It's only Frost that goes down though. He gets raised straight back in, and Shui paid for that rocket barrage with his life. This is not the fight that Machi were hoping for. New Paradigm being able to clean up on this defense now. Machi not getting the critical massive kills that they required.
All they realistically had to do was get past the rocket barrage, and they did drop 2 to it, but killing Shui and then getting a bunch of counter trades that favored them in a close quarters kind of choke point section, the final defensive area that you can have on this A section. New Paradigm, they're able to pull it through from Machi Esports. You feel it just losing the grip. Just aren't able to get enough kills despite Shui opening it up.
Again, Machi kind of in a no better position than before. As I say that, they get 2 headshots and just crack the defense wide open. So, never mind all that. They are now very well poised to get back on the payload, push this one over. Oh, Stamphagen's just popping off now. That'll be a cap coming through there. Nicely done by Machi.
That's 4 kills in a row for Stamphagen, and that's all you really need. Sometimes it doesn't even matter how far behind you are, how far behind in fight economy, for ultimates or anything else. If just your Widow can get the headshots, it's all you kind of need. New Paradigm, it kind of feels bad for them because, I mean, they had saved a defense, and now we're on to B.
Now Machi underway on point B. Question is, where will New Paradigm find the foothold on this defense? Because the clock is Machi's worst enemy here. Oh, nice halt on Stamphagen is going to result in him going down there. That's a window for New Paradigm. If they can maximize off that, if they can maybe take Shui out of the mix, get onto these tanks as well, they're in a pretty good position.
So also remember that New Paradigm have most of the ults here. Shui has that rocket barrage again. It's quite difficult though. He has to kind of take into effect where Merit is. The last time he dropped the barrage, He got himself just headshot straight away.
This time he's going to be able to pop it on Eind. Yeah, again, exactly. Shui is just a little bit too telegraphed. This time around, though, they're able to get picks once again out of Staffordshire. And that seems to be the real difference maker for Machi here, actually. It's got nothing to do almost with what plays they're setting up, with what ultimates they have on cooldown. It seems to be coming mostly down to how many kills does Staffordshire get.
The thing about Machi Esports is the rest of their members outside of this Pharmacy duo have been overpowering New Paradigm, despite Merit being able to shut down Shui on multiple occasions. It hasn't been enough. It's the rest of this New Paradigm squad that outside of that miracle A clutch defense they held, which then they promptly lost, it hasn't been much of a defense.
Speaking of defense, already Frost down on what was where New Paradigm were going to try and make that
after the rally
here. Yeah, it's after the rally. Actually, it was just barely before it. The Transcendence as well, and really it just means both of those ultimates don't get the mileage they wanted. That being said, New Paradigm, I was going to say for a moment they had weathered the storm there. Shui was low, but Machi, it's actually them who are weathering the storm. They're able to get the kill
Frost
through.
again.
Yeah, Frost now goes down. Machi just starting to run away with things here. New Paradigm struggling to put up any kind of significant resistance. It does feel like every fight is going the way of Machi. It's just a question of how long it takes.
They're bleeding members constantly here. New Paradigm losing Frost early. Eind tries to do a bit of a hero play, goes for the 1v1 with Creative. Doesn't know that Creative isn't by himself there. And Eind goes down. Frost comes back, dies straight away, and they're still bleeding members. New Paradigm have not been able to stabilize. They've barely had time to reinforce and regroup as 6. And Machi Esports just continue to push up. No pressure onto this cart. Shui looking for his next barrage.
Again, does feel like a matter of time. And speaking of, there is plenty of it. 2 minutes is enough time to cap this out. Starting to move into the final stretches thereof. There's still plenty of vertical space for Shui to play with as well. If they can get some good opening kills in this fight, they can just start to barrel through. You see Eind and Frost already just taking the hurt, and that's going to be Frost again going down so early in the fight. So crucial as well to have that big shield out of the way. Even with the res out, Machi have been able to move in, take some ground.
Well, it's Leo down this time, so for New Paradigm,
Judo's in trouble as well.
Finding something here. Judo is going down as well, means no tanks and no Shui. New Paradigm just kind of get one kill after that. They're able to just find those snowball picks in a similar fashion to what Staffordshire has been doing on earlier attacks. For Machi Esports, a little bit unfortunate. This is not the kind of slowdown they needed, especially not with only 110 remaining.
It's kind of the first real defense that New Paradigm have had since that very opening stretch on point A around the courtyard. So let's see if they can make anything more of it. They are coming into some pretty big ultimates.
And they needed that. They needed these ultimates to come in about now. Frost going down early again.
Yeah.
Really sucks for that defense.
Never mind those ultimates.
Probably up to Hojin Ho now.
Exactly, he's going to land the mother of all grabs. They do pick out Shui though, and they're able to get Judo out of the mech. That's pretty big. Committing the Transcendence off Velvet to make this defense stick. Very smart call from New Paradigm, because by making it stick, they actually force Match into a situation where it's kind of one or nothing.
We're still looking for this grab, but they might not actually have to use this, and that would be to a huge benefit to New Paradigm, especially Machi Esports are very pressure now. Under 30 seconds, they have to get a push underway. They have to get past a bunch of ultimates. You'd think this would be winnable for Machi Esports if the New Paradigm squad didn't quite have the double tank ultimates, but Machi Esports just haven't put themselves in a winning position here.
Machi's took a long time to lose that fight as well. By the time they were fully out, it was only 25 seconds left. Hojin Ho in a great position here. They're going to try and separate up the team, but Shui's already opened up on the back line. Found an excellent flank. There's the grab to come out, but it's eaten, yeah. And that means ultimately this is too little too late. There is an opportunity for some of New Paradigm to reset. Eind needs to stay alive though, and then he's going to have to get a lot done with this Dragon Blade all the way back into base to top himself off. They need to get presence on the cart. There goes Eind out the base, already dead to Shui. And now Machi getting it over the line, the last little bit, marching the payload forward as they collect the kills one by one, breaking that fight earlier. That excellent flank by Shui turned out to be all they needed. A New Paradigm in recovery mode, but this is not a coma they will wake up from. Machi going to get it over the line.
Nice New Paradigm this time with the miss-execution, I should probably say. Just waiting far too long. Shui found a double kill on the Rocket Barrage. We still didn't quite see the Graviton Surge. Needed that to be the game changer. Needed that one to swing the fight all the way back in New Paradigm's favor. Gets eaten up by Judo. Everything seemed to be set up for New Paradigm to get a full hold there. Everything seemed to look good for their team to complete the defense, but again, couldn't pull the trigger in time. It's key mistakes, key errors at the worst time possible, that really hurts New Paradigm on that defense.
It's unfortunate. I mean, feels like you can actually say the same for every map they've ended up losing. Key mistakes at key times. You could say the same of Machi, but the fact that New Paradigm have lost more than what Machi have means, I mean, New Paradigm are making more key mistakes. It's really that simple.
We're at the stage where I'm not too sure we can believe that New Paradigm can also finish this map. If that was a full hold on C, perhaps you'd say the possibility of New Paradigm winning is quite high. They just need to cap the remainder of the map, which isn't the full duration of the map, to be able to get the victory. That's doable for New Paradigm, but now for them to finish the whole map, and we see it quite rarely. We don't have that many time banks on Rialto. We've had a lot of Rialto gameplay, but very few games actually go all the way.
And speaking of, you're right, they'd have to cap out and then go to that time bank. So, rare as it is, I mean, more importantly, it means that New Paradigm would have to kind of repeat the success. It would have to be more than just a flash in the pan, and when you consider that Eichenwalde felt like the one off, I mean, they'd now have to do that 2 more times if they actually want to turn this map around for good. I don't know that it's possible. Even if they cap out, I don't know that they can actually win on the time bank, but I'd like to be proven wrong. So let's see if they can do it as they come out the gate on their attack, and let's see if Machi can hold a better defense than what they did on Eichenwalde.
So this is an interesting start from both Shui and Burst here. Again, they've done a lot of flanking in this series, and that is a fantastic concussive blast.
Excellent.
Sends Frost off the side.
Just the extra seconds lost here for New Paradigm, and as the barraging damage is coming in from Machi, they're getting extra picks as well. Just slows things down for New Paradigm before they can actually get the attack rolling.
Already making changes. Eind is now onto the Genji.
Shui is dead.
Frost now onto the Winston. Shui is back alive, so nothing really changes.
Yeah, I mean everything and nothing. It's got to be quite a freaky feeling to die and then you get resurrected. Like, oh, nope, I guess not. Like, man, that'd be a bit wacky.
I suppose you'd be desensitized to it, just like how now
Brown Cow.
I mean, New Paradigm may be desensitized to just getting back time and time again. Stanford taking the head off of Velvet.
And
we are seeing
head gets reattached.
Even, yeah, pretty much, right?
That's the best thing about robots, right? They don't really die, you just rebuild them. Oh, good catch on
Rebuild Frost, though.
Yeah, try to put that head back on, sucker. First, he's had no trouble reattaching the head so far. New Paradigm just have to wait for the heads to regrow manually.
Problem here with New Paradigm's attack is because they are running a dive, they can't spend too much time pushing the cart along. They actually need to make the dive first, win a team fight, and then be able to push the cart off the back of it. Most compositions here want to play something tankier with more shields so that you can fight as you're pushing the cart along. That's not something New Paradigm are fit to do.
This is a similar amount of time lost as what Machi had. The difference is, by this point, Machi were at least getting some forward progress in terms of the team composition and the positioning they had. Can't really say the same for New Paradigm here as the Raids comes in on Stafford. It's just kind of situation normal once again for Machi as they go about reattaching heads and knopping off more of New Paradigms.
Well, that's even a great play from Machi to be able to get the res in there, because if you look at where Stafford died, directly in the line of sight of Merit, for Burst to be able to get in, Shui had to go in onto Merit, pressure him out, and then allow Burst to get a free res.
New Paradigm still have not had any kind of inroads made here, trying to get shots on Shui, but
don't even have ults.
Yeah, this is taking so much time for Merit to just miss shots on Shui, and that's not really time that New Paradigm can even afford. And that's to say nothing of the rest of their teammates dying in the rest of the fight. Again, res is in for Machi. They can just reset and hold. New Paradigm have the closer respawns here, so Machi do maybe have to commit some ultimates if they want this fight to stick, but if they keep fragging the way they are, they might not even need to. Frost is committing the Primal Rage, and Machi are happy to have just taken this much time, and now they commit the ultimates. Transcendence in out of Creative, Rocket Barrage in out of Shui. The Dragon Blade comes in from Eind, but it's too little too late, even if he does find Burst, which by the way he won't, and Machi are again going to hold.
The biggest problem here for New Paradigm is when you look at the bigger picture here, when you look at the long-term game plan, even if they cap out A, are they going to have enough time to cap out B? Are they going to have enough time to cap out C? Because remember, they have to finish the entire map here. We even had a discussion just about this. The viability of New Paradigm actually finishing the map is starting to look less and less.
I mean, by this point, Machi actually had some momentum on their side. New Paradigm, they don't even have momentum for breaking this courtyard, let alone the kind of second defense on the courtyard or any of the hold points on B. Now under 30 seconds to go.
So many ults still available for Machi in comparison to New Paradigm. You really got to expect a big play from Ho here, and he's been one of the bigger factors for the team. He's landed some pretty good shots in previous games, but this is not previous games.
That's a headshot out of merit though, and Judo did have to reset that mech. So New Paradigm, they do have a real opportunity here. Burst has popped the Valkyrie, that's about to run out though, and Froppy has his up now. Machi, they know this. They're having to make a bit of space here. Let New Paradigm move forward a touch as Frost comes in with a Primal Rage. They've lost Judo's mech. Leo can match with his own Primal Rage, but they lose Judo altogether now. Machi at a genuine numbers deficit, but they start turning around. Catch on Velvet. That means the Rez has to come in, and Machi, the payload has been moving, but they haven't lost too many members. They will come in for another defense.
This will be the final one for Machi, but it's one they can still win. It's Transcendence versus a Dragonblade. A tale as old as time. We'll have to see if Iron can pull this one through as well. Note that Shui is close to a barrage, and Machi, they still got the tools to do this.
That is a very early Transcendence as well to come out of Velvet. Creative matches with his own. Bomb lands on Burst. That's a big open. Iron hasn't really got much done, though, with his Dragonblade. Just the tank out of New Paradigm, just taking the hurt. There he goes. Frost finally getting finished. Shui does trade his life 1-for-1 with that one. The new respawns, the closer respawns rather, for New Paradigm favor them in these even trades. It's not even even trades because Machi are the ones losing members. Looks like New Paradigm are going to be able to push this one over.
It's a second pulse bomb as well. This time sticks on his own teammate Frost. Doesn't get anything off it, but Frost is allowed to push through. Gets himself a triple in here as well. Despite the fact that Snapvision's back into action, he is getting some kills, but the cap has gone through. New Paradigm have at least capped out A. Now they're going to do B as well.
That was a marathon effort for New Paradigm. It even looked like Machi could still actually do it. Oh, nice headshot. That's just how uncomfortable this has been for New Paradigm. Like, even when they win, it feels like they're not gonna.
It feels like they're winning by closer margins than what Machi have to do on the opposite end as well. New Paradigm have to do so much, put in so much effort, execute so well to be able to get these fight wins. It doesn't get any easier. They don't have much time to play with, under 2 minutes. They get to the end of B, they're probably going to take till the overtime to even get there, especially if they're losing members.
Yeah, it's not a good look, unfortunately. And they're committing the Valkyrie as well, which suggests that they really want to go all in on this fight. They're coming up on a Dragonblade, and they've got the Primal Rage in, so they're making room for the payload. It does start moving forward, but it does still feel like eventually Machi will just dig in their heels here, and honestly, New Paradigm won't have enough time to break back through that. So the question is, where does that point come?
Well, even if Machi don't dig in their heels here, they certainly will want to see, but here comes a Dragonblade, immediately counted up by Transcendence.
Yep. Like you said, tale as old as time, song as old as rhyme, Beauty and the Beast. That is all.
But which one is the beauty? That's the question.
That is the real question. I like to think that Zenyatta is the beautiful one. Sorry, Genji.
60 seconds.
It's like Sanzang Zenyatta. It's like handsome Squidward.
I was going to say only with the only with
skin.
that specific skin, but for New Paradigm now, this is going to be a full reset. Just couldn't quite get enough kills, and you're starting to see a bit of a slowdown now. A slowdown that can't really afford. The cart's close enough, so you can still expect them to get one really big push into the overtime. The good news for New Paradigm is they bled out most of the Machi ultimates. They didn't have 4 ultimates on the Machi side previously. And because the card is so close, Machi do also feel pressure to use those ultimates to complete the defense. So now they don't have them.
That's kind of the only unfortunate thing here. It's the saving grace for New Paradigm, who are just about to come up on a Valkyrie. That is a high impact. Never mind, Froppy's dead. Creative did die as well, though, and they do still have a Transcendence. They've still got a Pulse Bomb. If Ho can land that, Iron finds Burst as well. This is the opening that New Paradigm actually really need. They're only just getting back onto the payload now, though. But they've got the kills anyway. I don't think that Machi are going to be able to mount much resistance by the time the payload rounds the bend here. You see Machi now trying to collapse for this last little bit. It's not looking like they have the members here. Judo's going to have to throw the self-destruct in eventually just to make space, if only to reset the mech. Velvet does go down, though.
That'll be enough.
There's a Pulse Bomb. They've just barely got the members through in New Paradigm. They had it all. It was right there. They just didn't get those few extra kills. Didn't have the payload quite close enough. They're actually not going to get it over the line when they had such a good start to that fight, but it did feel inevitable. And it is Machi who are going to pick up Rialto and seal the series, their last one of the regular season.
Just an unfortunate ending for New Paradigm. Not the worst ending. I mean, they picked up one map in the middle there, but towards the end, we're starting to believe maybe this could be still a New Paradigm victory, pushing us into map 5. Going into map 5, maybe then they can take down Machi Esports, and it all kind of ended. It's all started kind of crumbling down that dream when they couldn't quite complete that C hold on their own defense, because if they did, maybe we see a different story. At the end of the day, it didn't quite matter because New Paradigm didn't even get past B. They couldn't complete that B offense, barely made it past A, relied on basically a miracle to do it. Some clutch plays, you got to be sure, but ultimately, New Paradigm, they were not the better team. We didn't expect them to be the better team. We expected Machi to come out through pretty clean. 3-1, not the cleanest, but still pretty good.
And what it does mean as well is Machi seal themselves into either first or second. Which exactly it will be, it's going to come down to how EXL versus Talon, rather Monster Shield Korea, versus Talon goes. And it's still possible that Machi actually walk away with a first place finish here. That would be pretty nice for themselves, but that all remains to be seen in what will be our very next series. For now, Machi can just kind of feel glad that they've picked up their win. They've done their part and have done the best they can for the season. They are secure in the playoffs as well. They get what you would consider to be a more favorable matchup. It is likely they'll come up against Xavier Esports on the opposite side of the bracket. Could come up against Blank though, but on the whole, well-deserved win.
The other thing you could probably say for Machi Esports is a 3-1 victory is kind of the minimum for them here, because that means they get a +2 differential in this series. A 3-2 means they get a 0 because the 5th map doesn't really count, and the other 2, well, it's a 2-2, which means there's no change in map score.
+2,
a 4-0 means a 4-0, a 4+ map differential, obviously. So the 2 they really needed for the 3-1, because if it was 0-0 on a best-of-5 3-2 victory, that would ruin their chances potentially of actually getting first. So that chance to get first place now very much still alive, and we'll have to see if they can actually manage to do that, because we are going to take a bit of a break here, but when we come back, it's going to be the Group A first place decider. Monster Shield Korea versus Talon Esports. Who's it going to be? Find out after this.